All right, Paul, so what are we doing here?
It doesn't look like much, but what I'm doing is I'm feeling what we would call the Cranio Sacral pulse. So we're just sort of getting a bit of a read. I guess it's like a bit like a respiratory pulse or a cardiovascular pulse, but we're just trying to feel the rhythm of the spinal fluid that goes up and down the spinal column into the skull and then back down. So it's on average through the many years, decades now, I've started in America in the 60s, 70s by osteopath John Upledger. So the Upledger Institute's been an established institution in California, ironically in Silicon Valley. Not sure why, but it's in there. And John used to assist with neurosciences and all this sort of stuff. And I think it was through, I have read his book, but I'd have to go back and read again because I keep reading, I keep learning as I go forward. So, but they realised, there was this sort of pulse of the fluid flow. So it may make sense or it may not, but when the flow comes up into the head, I can feel it. I can feel it go up and down the spine. And what I'm looking for is any restrictions left to right hemispheres, and then down the spinal column, every vertebrae, we'll call it a segment. We can feel that there's a little bit of a slowing down of the flow or a speeding up or a hesitation. And that can sort of just make us want to pay attention to that region of the spine, or potentially what may feel like, I'll call it a stickiness or a congestion, which is preventing flexion and extension. So if you inhale, you flex your ribs. You exhale, you extend, flex, the other way around. So it's a little bit the same when we're reading the pulse. Why do we do that? Again, if there's any restrictions in the flow, it can create restrictions in central nervous system messaging to peripheral and vice versa, which a lot of the peripheral stimuluses, the five senses, it's just sending constant messages. So it's just a modality that's very gentle in its touch, because if we're too heavy-handed, the central nervous system tends to want to protect, and it will seize up a bit more, won't let you in. Antoine was lying there with his legs crossed. That actually creates a bit of a twist and a rotation through the spine, so it just makes it feel like there's a little bit of torque through it. So I want to try and get the best feeling of it. So with Antoine, it's pretty good. There's a little hesitation as it comes up into the skull and out. So I've done a little bit of a still point there, which basically, for want of a better word, stops the flow for a second or a few seconds, and that depends on his system or the person's system I'm working on, how long that will happen, or potentially if there's been a trauma and it's created a bit of a fight-flight response and the body's stuck in that loop. So I just want to gently challenge the system, because innately the system wants to be maximum, at its maximum. It doesn't want to be caught up in a loop. It wants to be optimal. So it's just a beautiful modality, which I accidentally fell into 15, 16 years ago.
Because this is something that's always worked really well with me, right?
I know.
My recovery is like really from the word go,
yes.
From the first time, yeah.
Yes, so that's been the great thing, because the best thing I can do as a practitioner here is just get my hands on you, sort of feel and read what your system's telling me, but not try and force the system.
Yep.
Just engage it.
Was it like 5 pounds of pressure or something? Is that right?
Well,
5 kilos.
When I first studied this, man, I think I'm still affectionately known as 5 pounds Paul in the States,
5 pounds.
Because it's 5 grams of pressure.
5
Like, it's the lightest touch. I came into that course, elbows in your back and your glutes, trigger pointing the hell out of you.
Yeah.
But I still did it in a way that I challenged the system, but I didn't allow it to stay stuck in its initial response. I'd allow it to unravel and let go.
Yep.
But I couldn't comprehend this bloody 5 grams.
Yeah.
So every time I asked the question, with this 5 pounds, they'd say, Paul, it's 5 grams. So 5 pounds, Paul, I am. But and there was another group out of those studies back in the 60s and 70s that sort of branched off and went to Europe. And I'm pretty confident that most of what you'll receive in this sort of work with the osteopaths around the world, that's their learning. Ironically, it's slightly heavy-handed. And my system probably responds better personally to that slight heavy-handedness.
Yep.
Because I fall asleep with an elbow on my back. Mentally, I'm cool with the pain that comes with it, and I can relax to it. Some people can't. So it just depends on your experiences and how because so much of what you do. I mean, for a young fellow like your son to get up here, he's got to trust me.
Yes.
Right. And we've done some work with him from a very early age.
Yeah, from very, very small.
So he I guess has faith in that, and he obviously trusts you.
Yep.
On what you want him to do, but and you said a little bit of jaw TMJ. Has he got anything going on there?
So just the bad underbite.
Yep.
Teeth alignment and stuff as well was pretty.
Okay.
If you get him to show you his E-fun, Antoine. E-fun.
Yeah. Yep.
But he doesn't have any bad like side effects, or doesn't have any like symptoms or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's more just, I suppose, moving forward, worrying about whether it be the aesthetics of it or whether it be just teeth wear and, with his adult teeth and whatnot. That's another thing. He's only lost 2 teeth. He's only had 2 teeth, like at 8.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So
2 bottom fronts.
Oh, well, my daughter, her adult teeth were taking a long time. And
she had a lot of this stuff done, right?
She did.
Through
and
Chris?
I can give you,
right?
Through Chris too. And
I
can give you a really good anecdotal story in relation to this and for Lily, what Chris felt it was from her labour, or mum's labour when she was born.
Yep.
Actually created a little slight misalignment through her skull sutures.
Yep. Not abnormal, like it's a pretty common
bones,
thing, right?
Right. Sometimes, usually they unravel and they neutralise. Yep. Sometimes they don't.
Yep.
So that creates pressure down through the jaw and the TMJ, temporomandibular joint. So for Lily, it was the adult teeth were taking a while, and what happened when a baby tooth come out, I think it was a tooth next to the big one in the middle, the gap started to close before the adult tooth settled in, and we're looking at 9-10 grand of braces. And so I went to Chris because there's a lot of work we do that's like internal mouth work.
Yep.
And
she did some of that on him really early on. Yeah.
My kids didn't want dad's fingers in their mouth and stuff, and I don't do it all the time, so I tend to refer to people who do it a lot. And Chris is an expert in the paediatric side of things with young babies all the way through to adolescent. And 6 treatments, I kid you not, her teeth were dead straight. The orthodontist couldn't work it out.
Of course not.
We didn't need to spend 10 grand. It was, with my health rebate, it was about $35 a session. And it was,
but not
Chris
surprising
and I said,
for people like us, right?
Yeah, and Chris and I said at the end, we should have taken some photos, but it was really, really, really cool. And so there's so much, and there's actually a crew, Sarah and Tim or Jim, I just had a Zoom meeting with him recently, and he's sort of evolved this sort of work, this TMJ work, and they're running courses around Australia, and I'm keen to do it, just to, because think about it, your TMJ is coming off your skull.
Yep.
Right at the top where the brain is, coming down into the spinal cord from the brain stem. And anything going on in the TMJ can actually have an effect on the rest of the system.
Everything else.
You guys,
eczema, whether it be the gut problem, anything.
Correct. And you've got vagus nerve travelling around through there, under there. So this is really impactful on just allowing good integrity of the systems and the systems combined. So I guess I wouldn't call, in a recent thing I talked about this, I sort of talked about the fascial anatomy should almost be another system in the body, and the cranio sacral system, but really that's the central nervous system. So, but fascial anatomy, that's a whole nother conversation. But when we're doing the cranio work, we are tapping into if there's any stickiness through the fascial anatomy and the function of the organs and muscle groups. I'm going to cough, excuse me, into the mic. So as I work through here with Antoine, with the kids, we definitely don't over challenge the system. Sometimes there's a necessity where you feel like something's really stuck. You may be stuck on something, you're not getting much of a shift, so you might go, okay, stop thinking about that point, think about the points that are connected to it, and then you'll find another sticky point somewhere else. So you'll go chase that, come back, and then all of a sudden that area that was stuck is now starting to unravel and just free up. And
so with this kind of treatment, like, were you, from the word go, able to pick up on the flow of, like you were saying earlier, like, could you pick up on that straight away, or it took you time to get sensitive enough to...
It took me, we did, whenever the American lecturers came to teach, it was a 5-day course.
Yep.
And it took me the 4th, 5th day on the first one to even get close to feeling
Yep.
that rhythm. Like, it's like taking the pulse.
Yeah.
And I was actually on the table, there's like 34 students, 3 remedial therapists, 1 chiro, and the rest were all local physios.
Yeah.
And I was working with a lady from the Adelaide Hills, and she and I both were getting to a point where we're going, yeah, this is a bit, what's going on? Where's the cameras? Is this a joke? Like we couldn't feel it. And one of our TAs was walking past, Erin, and she heard us just talking to ourselves.
Yep.
And she came behind me and she put her hands on my hands and she goes, shut up and just don't think.
Yeah.
She said, just don't think.
Don't expect anything. And
No, non-expectation, that's the key. And then all of a sudden I could feel, it felt like my hands were going, and she was feeling that lady's rhythm through my hand with her hands on top of mine. Crazy. Penny dropping moment.
Yep.
And I can't thank, because I did that course by accident. I had to do it to do a Tom, as a precursor to a Tom Myers anatomy trains course in Queensland. And I've never got to Tom's course, but I will one day. But I went on a tangent of multiple Cranio Sacral courses, and it's been an amazing compliment to my work. And I've actually been able to do things and achieve things with clients that I couldn't have with the work I was doing before. But it's not that we wouldn't get them the results, because I'm always willing to refer on.
Yep.
And through that, I actually say these days, this work here is probably the deepest tissue work I do, because of its profound effect of getting at a deep neural system.
Doesn't take a
neural
like
system
strength
level.
to get deep. It's
not at all.
No.
Not at all. And yeah, I remember having some lecturers who were full on in sort of this sort of realm and aromatherapy and really light touch, and I don't believe in that deep tissue stuff, it's too invasive. And you know, I actually ended up doing a course with one of my lecturers who had that bit of an attitude, and she was coming in, she had a crook back. She's coming in every day to the course, complaining, wouldn't do anything. And I just, you know, she was one of my teachers, one of my mentors, but we were students at this point.
Yep.
And I didn't say it in these words, but I basically, look, right, that's it, enough, shut up, get on the table. And I just gently went into the deep trigger points, and she became, I guess, a bit of a believer in that the application can be done in a certain way. Then she wanted me to work at her clinic down at Port Wollonga and stuff, and do a bit of my work in with all the stuff they did. She was amazing. She used to get Buddhist monks over to her place and stay there.
Wow.
Yeah, they're full on.
Awesome.
And then I went and did one of her courses.
Oh, cool.
So look, there's not one thing that fixes all, but if you can tap into someone's system and I guess gently, or persuade it or stimulate it to let go of central nervous system blocks, or congestion, or what else would we call it? There's other words. Even the emotional part of our system. Chinese medicine has amazing understanding of our mental and emotional stress and how it affects our physical, from musculoskeletal system to organs, and how they all interrelate and connect. And we can get an idea on how your system's feeling emotionally just by what we feel in your physical body. So, and if someone tells us how they're feeling emotionally, we can sort of map a little bit where they might be congested in their body.
Yeah, I remember on that, like, being even like, saying how even the other way around, like, okay, something on my left-hand side was, and you're like, do you have any problems with women at the moment? I'm like, always.
Yeah.
My mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you like literally, like, I was like, how the hell did he know this?
Well, it's and another mentor, Ivan McWilliams, Tweener Emanuel, and Chinese medicine, TCM, and acupuncture and acupressure, and his innate understanding of the system of the body. I go rock up to get a treatment from him, How you doing? Yeah, good, mate. He goes, you're the biggest bullshit artist I know. I go, what do you
got the
mean?
same thing from
He
him.
goes, like, you're consciously, you're pushing through, you're grinding and that, but your body's not telling me that. Get on the table, let's sort you out.
Yeah.
And he's right, and it's one of the, just that knowledge itself, sort of, even without getting on the table,
Yep.
just knowing that, there's something going on, that makes sense.
thing
And if
happened
you can
when
consciously
Antoine
make
saw
sense
him.
of it, you just,
When Antoine saw him, he straight away picked up on stuff with Antoine that I
he's
didn't even mention.
Amazing
Yeah,
with kids, man.
yeah.
Yeah. Ivan, Aaron, Chris,
I haven't seen Aaron, but he's seen Chris and Ivan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Aaron sort of, she went on a bit of a hiatus and
Yep.
she's re-established herself. She's doing
Okay.
a bit of a solo clinic now.
Yep.
And, amazing intuitive lady.
Yep.
Chris is sort of semi-retired, I think.
Yeah.
She's having a bit of a hiatus,
I think
which is,
you're right, yeah.
which is a shame because she's so bloody
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
just couldn't afford it at the time because I was like,
Yeah.
was I really early on in his days and
All right, mate. Just open and close your mouth. Yep. Nice and wide. Big one. Big open. Yeah. Close. Yep. And again. Yep. And again. Good boy.
what we'll
Not
do is
really, not really sore doing that. It's all right. Good boy.
we'll end this one here. Just want to thank you very much, Paul, and
That's all right.
yeah, we'll do some more of these in the future.
Yeah. No worries.
Thanks, brother.
Pleasure.